welcome, Mark. Sorry you couldn't be with us here in Denmark, and you're a busy man. And so I hand it over to you. Take it away.
Thanks very much, Edwin. And I'm just catching the last contribution, and I really wish I could have been much more involved in the workshop today. I think this content is fantastic, and I think would be useful to us in future training developments. But unfortunately, I'm involved with a training program this weekend, so I'll cut to the chase. I'm going to show you a couple of slides, but this is a presentation about the training that we did at an event run by Malin Group at COP26, which is why it's got Malin stuff all over it. Really just to give you something to look at rather than me. So I'll just share this now and tell you a bit about hydrogen training. Just bear with me while I find my my sharing button, which is normally right here. Hold on. That's interesting because usually I have a share button up here. Hey, you may not get the slides today. Oh, here we go. I've just been at sea all morning, bobbing about in a boat, so I'm probably disorientated. Okay, so hopefully you're looking at a slide, and please feel free to stop me. I'll just try and be as brief as possible. So we have been running training for the first watch of crews on the MV Chaplaincy with the co-combustion installation that we have up here in Orkney, and we have gained, as you see here, a recognition for the training program from the MCA. What's quite interesting about this is we are told that this was the first flag state recognized training course in the world, and I will share with you in a minute the content of this, but also I want to tell you about the limitations of this training as well. I was speaking to colleagues from Norway at our COP26 event, and it was quite interesting because they had been handed a very, very similar format of training to the stuff that we'd written here. And I think possibly the Flag State Authority in Norway had been talking to the MCA, and that's great to proliferate the training program we've got. However, I want to put this in context for training. At the moment, the training we have in the UK is MCA approved, and it's UK waters, and the same goes for the training that my colleague in Norway was developing. And at the moment, individual flag states are developing home waters training for hydrogen powered vessels. And that clearly is great at the moment. It's going to get our vessels to sea, and that's a good start point. However, I'm skipping through slides because there's a lot of junk in here. But as you're probably aware, the current IMO framework for low flashpoint fuels is completely LNG focused. So we have a training pathway for vessels with low flashpoint fuels, such as hydrogen. But we had a very strange situation for the Chaplaincy crew where everyone had to go and leave Orkney, head south, and do the full IMO program of LNG training, and then come back to Orkney to attend our training. We had to ask them to forget everything they knew about, had been taught about LNG, or nearly all of it. And so the training we have is a conversion course. Now, this appears to be the current intermediate approach that other countries are taking as well. It's fine for now. It is limiting in two ways. Firstly, small projects will need to be sending their crews for irrelevant and expensive training in LNG before they can come and train on hydrogen. And the other thing, of course, being local waters training, home waters training, we don't as yet have an international training framework in place for transnational shipping. So we couldn't load up a hydrogen cargo ship and take it to another flag state at the moment. there just isn't the training involved there. I'm quite involved with the folk in the top right hand corner of the slide there, Zestus, the Zero Emission Ship Technology Association. And with Zestus, we're applying at the moment to become a body which may advise and contribute to the IMO. So we're in this very long-winded process. And I've written a paper from here suggesting a streamlined and siloed approach to specialist fuels, so that we can have a siloed specialist fuel training program for hydrogen, one for ammonia if we go there, one for batteries, and so on. But it's a long road before we will be able to legitimately present that information to the IMO, although I think they are aware of the stuff that Zestus and myself have been proposing. So the cogs are turning very, very slowly. But we can, in the UK and in Norway, train home waters vessel crews for hydrogen vessels. And I'd like to just show you the format for our training and tell you a bit about that, and then very, very happy to answer any questions that folk might have. So this is the program that we have designed. So please, again, bear in mind that everyone attending this has already gone and done their full suite of IGF training on LNG. They've come home, they've got their hydrogen vessel or hydrogen installation, and we sort of start again. So the first day, I appreciate you can read the slide for yourselves, but the first day we teach a simple but fairly extensive content of hydrogen safety awareness, and the behavior of the gas, methods of storage, the usual stuff that you'd have on a basic hydrogen awareness course. On day 2, we start to talk about how we use the properties of hydrogen in an installation to design things for safety. So we use the way that hydrogen diffuses, the way that hydrogen travels upwards very quickly, and we use those for our advantage rather than work against them. We talk about ATEX, and then we begin to start looking at things like emergency procedures and, importantly, firefighting theory, which I'll come back to. Day 3 is interesting because at this point we for HyDime we recruited David Hibbert, who is the engineering superintendent for the project, and we would, for any project, recruit the most appropriate member of the team who can speak to such issues as decision support, safety management system, operating procedures, going through the operations manual for the vessel. And we are actually then facilitating somebody from the design team to work directly with the vessel master, mate, chief engineer, and any relevant members of crew to assist in putting together the safety management system for the vessel, familiarize relevant officers and crew with operating procedures, and, as I say, decision support, emergency procedures, etc. So we're actually creating those things on the course for the specific vessel. And finally, on day 4, we have the first half of the day is firefighting techniques for hydrogen. We will have covered a lot of the theory, and we carry out simulated scenarios, usually in an engine room space, where we practice detecting and responding appropriately to simulated hydrogen fires. And then in the second half of the day, we use a fuel cell facility locally run by EMEC, and we carry out the required number of bunkering procedures using real hydrogen, using real tankers, using a gas panel we've got here that's running a fuel cell. So we get the crews, we run through the bunkering checklist, and then they have just one further bunkering operation on their own vessel, and they have their qualifying 3 bunkering operations then. And that's that. So I'm just going to unshare now, and very, very happy to answer any questions or hear any comments from folk. If there are any.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that was very helpful and very useful. So if anyone has any questions, please ask them now, because Mark will have to leave shortly.
I've certainly got time for some questions. We're okay, but and
Okay.
I'm sorry to have to leave in a bit. But yes, please do ask or contact me privately as well. Quite happy to speak to folks who.
No? Otherwise, we can go into the general Q&A, and that sort of hopefully a question begets a question. So if anyone has any questions on what Richard presented, or on what Ballard or Kongsberg presented, then please go ahead. Otherwise, we'll assume that you're all experts and you absorbed everything there was to absorb.
Yeah, I have a question.
You have a question, please.
Compared to the LNG that you mentioned in your presentation, what do you think would be the main difference with the hydrogen regarding safety?
Was that a question for me? I didn't quite hear it either.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe you want to.
If you want to speak up.
Yeah, because I guess the microphone is.
Exactly.
Okay. So compared to the LNG, the safety issues with the LNG, could you point out what would be the main difference between the LNG and the hydrogen?
Well, they are very similar in terms of things like pressure storage, bunkering procedures, etc. I think that there are some differences in the behavior of the gas and the lightness and dispersion qualities of the gas. But I think more than that, we're looking at internal vessel systems that are very specific. I think the vessel specific aspect and the firefighting aspect and the general hydrogen safety awareness are some of the crucial differences here. But specifically, the size of vessels in which we're installing or intending to install hydrogen tend to be in my experience at least, a lot smaller than the sorts of vessels where we're working with LNG. You're absolutely correct in the differences aren't great, but we felt, and the MCA felt, that hydrogen specific training was important.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
No, I thought it was a question, but it wasn't.
No.
I really like the day 3 thing, to be honest, because we're in such a developmental phase now. It won't last forever, I think, that idea that you have to do a very vessel specific time and a very vessel specific workshop. I think it's great because your projects will be different from somebody else's methods. We look at the differences between high diamond, high seas, even just in terms of tank storage and things like that. So I'm quite proud of the 3rd day when we're training very specifically for the vessel, and particularly the safety management systems and decision support and things like that. And I think we have to think about crew perceptions as well. You know, we all might have our own level of awareness about hydrogen safety and the procedures and protocols we've put in place to keep people safe. But I've trained crews in hydrogen cargo handling, for example, and it was a couple of hours of basic hydrogen awareness training before people's concerns start to come out, before you start to put people at ease enough that they can express their worries. And I think we have as much of a human element to get past here as the technical elements as well. We really can't underestimate how crews feel about being asked, right, we'd now like you to crew this hydrogen vessel. We need people to feel aware and empowered and knowledgeable, the sort of stuff they're going to tell their friends. You know, I'm going to be crewing a hydrogen vessel, and here I know some stuff and I can tell you some stuff. And that sort of confidence, I think, is really, really important. We can never avoid the human element too much.
Thanks, Mark. We just Richard needs to catch a train, I think.
Sure. Well, I'll leave you to it, but I'm very happy if anyone has any other inquiries or questions to Edwin. If you're happy to pass things on, I'd certainly respond to those.
Thanks, Mark. So yes, if there are any questions that are directed to you, I'll certainly pass them on. And thank you for joining us.
Please excuse me for shooting off early, and have a good rest of the workshop.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.